Okay guys, this carrot cake recipe, it's a blue ribbon recipe that I've made for several years. I haven't made one in a while, but we really like carrot cake. It's one of my favorites. But I got all my ingredients ready here. It does call for buttermilk. If you don't have buttermilk, you can make your own with just your milk and a little bit of lemon juice or vinegar. And I know what y'all are thinking. You're thinking, Miss Lori, you and Mr. Brown are supposed to be on a low-carb diet. And we are. We're watching our carbs. We're not totally off of them, but we are watching our carbs. But I'm still cooking good old Southern food, too. And I love to bake, so I'm not going to quit baking. But my carrot cake will go to school tomorrow, so teachers will be able to eat them. they'll be happy that they got carrot cake anyways. So, but I've been wanting to make this recipe for a while. So get your pen and paper together and get ready to write all the ingredients down. Okay, we got 2 cups of all-purpose flour. We've got, in this little bowl, I've got, let's see, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, and I got a half a teaspoon of salt. I got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I'm going to need 3 eggs. I've got a cup of chopped pecans, and I've got a cup of shredded sweetened coconut. I've got 2 cups of shredded carrots, and I've got 8 ounces of crushed pineapple, which you want to drain the juice off of. I've got a half a cup of oil. I got 3/4 cup of buttermilk, and you're going to need 2 teaspoons of vanilla. So the first thing we want to do is we want to mix up our dry ingredients. And I've got my oven heating to 350, so it'll be going off here in a minute. Tell me it's ready. So we're going to put our 2 cups of all-purpose flour. This is our baking soda and salt. 2 teaspoons of baking soda and a half a teaspoon of salt. Just kind of mix them up good together. You always want to mix your dry ingredients up before you put your wet ingredients. I've got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And I know some people are allergic to cinnamon, and you can leave it out. I mean, the cake will still be good. So we got that mixed up good. Now we're going to work on our wet ingredients here in the big bowl. And we're going to put in, let's see, this is our half a cup of oil. And I'm using peanut oil because that's the oil that I have to bake with. And I'm going to put in my 3/4 cup of buttermilk. We're going to put in 3 eggs. 3 fresh eggs. Now this is going to be a sheet pan cake. I'm not going to do this in layers because it's just easier, especially when you're needing to cut it and serve it. It's just easier for like at a potluck or like I'm doing, taking it to school. So I got my buttermilk, my oil, my eggs. We're just going to whisk that up. And there goes my oven. It's ready, 350. So now we're going to put in, let's see, our vanilla. We need 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I use Watkins. I have always liked Watkins extracts. Okay, we got our eggs, oil, buttermilk, our vanilla, and I'm going to put in our let's see, how many cups of sugar? 1.5 cups of sugar we'll put in here. Okay, a while ago I forgot to mention the sugar. It's 1.5 cups of sugar, so write that down. Now I will be putting this in my description box below too, the recipe. So we're going to put 1.5 cups of sugar in here with the wet ingredients. Get it stirred up good. Now we're going to put in our 8 ounces of pineapples, crushed pineapples, our 2 cups of grated carrots. You know, I don't know how many people, especially young people, they'll say, is there really carrots in carrot cake? Like, yeah. They just like, well, you can't taste it. No, you can't. Okay, we got our grated carrots, our pineapple. Now I'm going to put in my dry ingredients. I'm going to put my flour in here, my flour mixture. And this is going to be a wet batter. I mean, it's not going to be real thick till you get it. Then it starts thickening up. It smells really good. Now I'm going to change over something else to stir with. It's going to take anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes for this to cook. Now I'm going to add my cup of shredded coconut and my cup of chopped pecans. And you can use walnuts if that's what you like to use. And this comes together pretty fast. Now this is going to be a really good cake. Just get it mixed up as good as you can. And see, it is a pretty wet batter. It's not too thick. Okay, I've got a 9 by 13 pan. I've got it greased. You don't have to put flour in it, just as long as it's greased good. If I was putting it in, like, you know, regular round cake pans, I would grease and flour. Plus, I'd put parchment paper on the bottom. But since we're just doing it in a 9 by 13, and we'll just be cutting pieces out, it'll be good. It'll come right out of there. I almost want to put it in my sheet pan, since it is a sheet pan cake. I would just almost be afraid that it would rise and come over the side. I'm not sure, because I've always put it in just a regular, but not 9 by 13. So I think that's what we'll do. So I'm just going to put this in my pan. Now this cake, after it comes out of the oven, I'm going to put a buttermilk glaze on it while it's still hot. And then after it cools, we'll put our cream cheese frosting on it, which is my favorite part. So, we'll get this in the oven, 30 to 40 minutes, and I'll probably check it. I'll probably check it in my oven after 25 minutes, because y'all know my oven, the way it cooks. But, so after 25 minutes, I'll check it, and we'll see how long it takes for it to cook. This is going to be our buttermilk glaze, and this is what we're going to, when the cake comes out of the oven, we'll kindly poke a few holes in the top of the fork. Then we're going to pour this buttermilk glaze over that and just let it soak into that cake. Then let it cool a little bit before we frost it. I've got 1/4 of a cup of buttermilk. Put that in there. I've got 1/4 of a cup of butter. I got 1/2 cup of sugar, and I've got 1/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. We're going to let this buttermilk, and then we're going to bring this up, the sauce up to a boil. Okay, you can see how it's bubbling. It's starting to come to a boil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my timer on for 4 minutes. And I'm going to watch it because I don't want it to scorch. And I'm going to let it boil like this for 4 minutes. It's going to look foamy like that because that's from the baking soda. We got a little over 3 minutes still left. Okay, you can see how it's not foaming now, but it's still boiling, just a little. It's just like at a good simmer, and there's still 2 minutes left, but you want to keep stirring. Now I turned my heat down to keep it at a simmer like this. And we still had like 2 minutes to go. Keep stirring it. Okay, you see how it's kind of got a caramel color to it. And I'm going to turn my heat off. Been 4 minutes. And now I'm going to put a teaspoon of vanilla. And now we're ready to put this on our hot cake. Okay, it took exactly 40 minutes in my oven for this cake to bake, and boy, it looks good and it smells wonderful. So what I'm going to do now, while it's still good and hot, so I'm going to take my fork and I'm just going to poke holes around it like this. It's good and brown on top. And then we're going to take our buttermilk sauce here. Probably hard to see. And I'm just going to kind of pour it over the top. Let me do it this way. Let's see it better. Just kind of let it ooze into the cake. This is really good sauce. I tasted of it. I'm just going to kind of spread it over the cake a little bit. Then I'm going to let this. So if it's not cooling off for you fast enough, you can stick it in the refrigerator and cool it off. But I'm going to let this just cool off. Then we'll put our cream cheese frosting on it. So let's get started on our frosting. Okay, we're going to get started on our frosting. To me, this is my favorite part too. So I got 8 ounces of cream cheese, and I let it come to room temperature, let it soften. And I'm going to put in 1/4 of a cup of butter. And I'm going to cream this before I put my sugar in it. And I'm caught up here. Okay, now we're going to add 1 cup of powdered sugar. And I always like to put mine I like to sift it so that it doesn't have all them big clumps in it. Because a lot of times you'll be mixing your frosting up, and there'll be clumps in there that you didn't realize, or that this just makes it a smoother frosting. And it don't take very long to sift it and get them big clumps out. I tell you, I love cream cheese frosting, and I love to make fudge cream cheese frosting for maybe a white cake or yellow cake. Cream cheese is just, and cream cheese is used in a lot of different desserts for your low carb keto desserts too. So you can see all them big pieces. So we got our cup of powdered sugar in there. Now I'm going to put about a teaspoon and a half of vanilla. And we're going to go back and blend this up. Okay, after you get it mixed up, what you want to do to get a fluffier frosting is turn your beaters on high and beat it for about a minute or so.